Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. We're continuing our series on the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting from 1994 for the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons, technically. Um, it's been a interesting time, and we're going to continue with an interesting time because we got some old school undead to kick off with here, the Dusanu, on page 36. Again, the image is a little more washed out than what I'm looking at here in my hand, but it's not terribly unrepresentative here. It's just a bit paler, right? But as you can see, we have definitely an undead creature, right? It's got visible bones. It's got evil glowing eyes. It's got tattered robes and bits of, well, scrubbliness about it and, pointed claws, which always accentuates the danger, right? Uh, let's get it from the top of the stat block, as it were. Climate/terrain, any temperate to tropical. They are very rare. Organization pack. Their activity cycle is at night. Their diet is scavenger. Their intelligence is average. Their treasure type W, chaotic neutral in alignment. Number appearing will be 1d3 plus 1, so you get 2 to 4 of these showing up. Armor class 4, movement 12, hit dice 9 plus 2, so, 98 plus 2. To hit AC 0 is 11 for these creatures. Number of attacks, they get 2. The damage per attack is a d8 for each claw. Those wickedy, jagged-looking claws with the sharp points on the end will rip you up. Special attacks are spores. Special defenses are C below. No magic resistance. They are size medium. They are human size at 6 feet tall. Champion morale. They are undead, after all. And XP value of 3,000. The Dusanu, or Rot Fiend, is a horrifying and intelligent humanoid that shuffles through the deepest wilderness of Mystara, attacking unfortunate humans and humanoids with its deadly spores. A Rot Fiend appears as a yellowing, mold-encrusted human or humanoid skeleton, often wearing tattered clothing. Its strange eyes flicker with the haunting blue light, and the foul air near Dusanu is tainted with the spores of its terrible dry rot. Did we just do dry rot twice there? Yeah, no, I must have read that wrong. Um, let's do that again. Sorry, the wonderful unedited experience this is. A rot fiend appears as a yellowing, mold-encrusted human or humanoid skeleton, often wearing tattered clothing. Its strange eyes flicker with the haunting blue light, and the foul air near Dusanu is tainted with the spores of its terrible dry rot. There has been no account of any successful communication with the Dusanu, although several sages and wizards have made the attempt. Combat. In battle, Dusanu are intelligent and very cunning. The monsters always attack with their moldy claws, each causing 1d8 points of damage. When attacking, a pack often attempts to form a spore-radiating circle around the intended victim. As a rot fiend attacks, its spores radiate outward, filling a 5-foot radius circle around the creature. Any human, demi-human, or humanoid in this circle must roll a saving throw versus poison. Those who fail suffer an additional 1d8 points of damage and become infected. See Habitat/Society. A Dusanu's mold-infested bones are particularly soft, even spongy. Their ability to absorb impact protects the creature from damage. Non-magical weapons inflict only 1 point of damage to the Rot Fiend, while magical blunt weapons, maces, hammers, etc., only cause half damage. Other magical weapons, however, inflict full damage upon the creature. The Dusanu's non-conductive mold makes it immune to all types of electrical attacks. So, Habitat/Society. The Dusanu is actually a fungal colony inhabiting a human or humanoid skeleton. Its collective group mind grants the creature its intelligence and will. Mold inhabits every crevice of the host skeleton save the eye sockets from which it emits the strange waste fumes that causes the Dusanu's eyes to flicker with an eerie blue light. A rot fiend reproduces by infecting humans and other humanoids with its poisonous spores. Those infected by these spores do not show any outward sign of infection for 1d3 plus 1 days, save for an itchy rash. However, cure wound spells have no effect on the victim. At the end of this time, yellowish mold begins to erupt from the victim's skin. Each day, the victim must make a saving throw versus death. A victim who fails a saving throw becomes overgrown with mold, resulting in death in less than 2 hours. The spores can be destroyed with a cure disease spell cast on the victim any time prior to death. After a dormant period of 1 to 3 days, the mold animates the dead body, creating a new Dusanu. The character's personality is lost to the new colony now inhabiting the corpse. All the person's memories and abilities disappear when the spores animate the body. I wonder if a Speak with Dead spell, if that would still work properly. I imagine it would. If you have another opinion, please elaborate below. Dusanu prefer to travel in small packs of 1d3 plus 1 colonies, so characters hardly ever encounter them alone. Rot fiends appear to communicate through the release of spores and can sense one of their own kind up to 10 miles away. The creatures do not seem to have any particular lair or hunting ground, but instead adopt a nomadic lifestyle. Adventurers find them most often roaming deep forests or swamps far from regular human habitation. When not attacking humans and other intelligent creatures, rot fiends avoid civilization. Ecology. Periodically, a Dusanu must renew its mold colony by launching spores into a carcass, rotting tree limb, or other dead object. The spores rapidly grow into mold that consumes the decaying material, then launches new, revitalized spores that feed on previous mold colony to build a new one. The mold on the dead material dies after it has used up its food supply. In this way, a rot fiend can consume an entire body or tree trunk the size of itself in less than 3 hours. Interesting. I imagine cold would make it dormant or even kill the mold. And obviously fire is probably pretty effective, right? But there are no special provisions in the description. That'll be up to you as the DM to decide if you want to give any kind of advantage that way, if the players think it up. Clearly, you should reward creative thought, but if the fight is going easy, up to you. Now, we're going to move into a new section here on elementals. And these do go on for a bit, so we're not going to finish this in this episode. But these are not like regular air, earth, fire, or water elementals. These are more of the marginal cases. So these are in that, despite each plane being functionally infinite, there is this like borderland between, say, like what for example here, air and earth, where you get the more hybrid environment, and that's the kind of elementals we're going to be talking about for a bit. So this one in particular is an elemental of chaos, air/earth, and these will have we have two elementals in this, the Aeolian and the Erdine, and we'll be getting into this right now, here on page 37. So, the Aeolians are functionally the air-leaning ones, and the Erdines are functionally the earth-leaning ones, as demonstrated by the climate here, terrain that they prefer. Aeolians prefer any air, while Erdines prefer any earth. They are both very rare. The Aeolians are cliquey, while the Erdines are solitary. They have any activity cycle, while and in diet, Aeolians prefer air, clouds. Erdines prefer earth and metal. The Aeolians are very intelligent at 11, while the Erdines are also very intelligent at 12. Aeolians do not have treasure, while Erdines have special treasure. Um, Aeolians are chaotic in any sense. So, again, this comes to the 9-point alignment system of chaotic can be good, neutral, or evil, while the Erdines are just chaotic neutral. Aeolians will appear 1d4, while, and that's that clique they got going on, right? The Erdines, you just get 1. Armor class 2 for the Aeolians. Erdines are armor class 0. Aeolians fly at 36 with an A category maneuverability, so they are hummingbirds, right? While the Erdines have an earth movement of 18, so fast on the ground. Aeolians have 8 hit dice, Erdines have 10 hit dice. Aeolians need 13 to hit AC 0, while the Erdines need 11. Aeolians get 2 or 1 attacks, while the Erdines just get 2 attacks. Now, here under damage per attack, the Aeolians say you get 2d4. It's not buffet. It's buffet. You're being buffed by the air elemental, okay? If you're reading along. They get 2d4 buffets. Meanwhile, the Erdines get 2 1d12 fists. Aeolians have a suffocation and spell special attacks, while Erdines just have spells. Aeolians and Erdines have special defenses, as seen below. There is no magic resistance for either creature. Aeolians are large at 10 feet long, while Erdines are large at 9 feet long. Morale is elite. The Aeolians have a 13 rating, while Erdines have a 14. XP value for the air-loving Aeolians is 5,000, but you remember they won't be alone, usually. While the Erdines will be alone and have 7,000 XP. The elementals of chaos are intelligent creatures native to one of the 4 elemental planes. Each of these elementals pursues its own interests vigorously with little, if any, care for order on either its home plane or the prime material plane. All elementals of chaos are immune to poison, normal weapons, and first and second level spells. They also can cast Detect Invisibility at will. Elementals of chaos cast spells at the 9th level of ability. Aeolian, native to the elemental plane of air. And now I'm going to point out here that the Aeolian is pictured. It's this very light-looking background shadow that you might have thought may have just been a suggestion of like a cave opening or something. That's this thing here. The Erdine in the foreground is much more visible, of course, because it is dark. But yes, it's kind of shaded blue and yellow. Like imagine like kind of like a methane fire, almost completely invisible, right? Back into it anyway. Native to the elemental plane of air, Aeolians appear as shifting wind beings that look like heat shimmers, although they are actually cool and solid. The creatures, generally 10 feet long and not more than 5 feet wide, can shift their exact dimensions at whim. Combat. An Aeolian plunges enthusiastically into battle, seeing it as the ultimate form of chaos. It normally attacks by buffeting its foe with a windy body. The creatures can make assaults like this twice per round, causing 2d4 points of damage with each hit. Instead, if the Aeolian chooses, it can plunge part of its wavering body into the mouth and lungs of a foe. Doing so requires successful attack against armor class 0. The victim then must make a saving throw versus death magic or begin to suffocate, automatically suffering 1d8 points of damage per round. An Aeolian cannot attack while suffocating a foe, but enough of its body remains outside of its victim that it can be attacked. Aeolians can cast each of the following spells 3 times per day: Detect Magic, Dispel Magic, and Cloud Kill. In addition, the creature can cast Control Winds and Control Temperature, 10-foot radius, only to reduce temperature, once each day. An Aeolian is immune to all air-based attacks, but remains vulnerable to earth-based assaults, which cause it double damage. I would say Meteor Swarm would count in that regard, but, if you got Meteor Swarm, this thing's not your problem. Carrying on. Habitat/Society. The vain Aeolians consider themselves chaos personified. They reflect the nature of their alignment so well that they even change at least once a day from chaotic good to chaotic neutral to chaotic evil. The homes of these creatures are vast, swirling maelstroms that can catch up their belongings, constantly tossing them aloft. Ecology. Aeolians count Ainmos and Krists as enemies, as well as the highly regimented Horde. They occasionally help adventurers when the mood strikes them, although they later may get the urge to betray them or even harm their friends. Remember, elementals are functionally alien creatures, not of this earth. Keep that in mind whenever you're portraying an elemental in your game. But think of what what is the fundamental nature of the creature, right? Clearly, Aeolians are just turn on the flutter of the wind, right? They are here today, gone tomorrow, constantly fluctuating, changing in mind and temperament, and enthusiast, but otherwise, how should I put it? Flighty, right? The Erdene, however, is probably much the opposite, as we will see. Erdenes, lumpy rock beings about 9 feet tall, have long veins of metal and ore running throughout their bodies. They originate from the elemental plane of Earth. Combat. In battle, an Erdene moves with surprising grace. It attacks either by slamming its victim with its fists, 1d12 points of damage, or by casting spells. The elemental can cast each of the following spells 3 times per day: Detect Magic, Dispel Magic, and Earthquake. In addition, an Erdene can cast Transmute Rock to Mud at will. The creatures are immune to all earth-based attacks, yet vulnerable to air-based attacks, which inflict upon them an additional 3 points of damage per die. Habitat/Society. Characters rarely encounter the solitary Erdenes outside their home plane. When in Mystara, the creatures spend much of their energy rearranging earth and rock into bizarre and unstable configurations. The homes of these elementals constantly shift, topple, and become vacant as the Erdenes move on to new sites. Fascinated by the chaotic instability of Earth, these elementals feel amazed that there are so many creatures view it as a stable element. Erdenes have been known to trap adventurers underground and engage them in bizarre discussions about the nuance of reality. Those who please the quixotic, it's based on Don Quixote, quixotic elementals may go free, though what will please an Erdene can be difficult to deduce. Ecology. The body of an Erdene yields 1d4 times 1,000 gold pieces worth of precious ores and minerals. These creatures consider the stodgy Galeb, Dur, and Hydrax enemies, hate hordes, and fear air-based creatures and air-based attacks in general. So, these are in opposition. I find it interesting we're presenting them in opposition. But, the thing about elementals is that you're either going to be summoning them to the prime material plane, or you are going into the elemental planes for various reasons and encountering them there. And so you're most likely to encounter them in isolation, as they are to be summoned. That's the most likely way they're going to show up in your campaign. But it's your campaign, right? You're the DM. Um, you'll think about how you want to introduce these things. But if there is an Erdine in a dungeon, and you're planning on kind of trapping the players, think of an exit strategy. Do the players have a way out, right? Do they have the capability of working their way out, right? Um, don't just leave them trapped to starve and suffocate at the bottom of the dungeon. Anyhow, that's going to be it for this episode because, again, my voice is still kind of recovering from being sick and I'm still been coughing quite a bit. But I've lubricated up my throat with a nice mug of tea before I started, and it's wearing off, I'm afraid. I wish you all a pleasant day and a fantastic new day tomorrow. Goodbye.